What's up, everybody? Khaled Iwamura here from insauga.com, and I have the one and only Sam McDadi here with me, the biggest real estate brokerage in Mississauga. So we got a lot of kind of serious topics to talk about because there's been 7 interest rate hikes over less than 10 months. How does one with a variable mortgage handle this?
It's really difficult today, and I think it came at us really quickly. So we anticipated at some point rates would go up, but just not this quick and this fast. And I think it's really made people put them in an uncomfortable position because many people, probably 2/3 of our client base, took variable rate mortgages over the last few years, and they just thought rates would probably stay at a low level for an indefinite period. Being a real estate practitioner for 30 plus years, I knew these rates at some point were going to go up, but not this quick. And I think people are really struggling right now. And just to give you an example, if you had $1 million mortgage previously before the rate hikes, you might have been paying on a 1.5% variable rate $2,000. $4,000, let's say. Now it's gone to $6,000. So you've seen a $2,000 bump up in 6 to 7 months. And most people today, where economics are difficult, food, gas, everything's really gone up and inflation's pretty high. This has really put them over the top. So I think it's been a real challenge for our clientele and people on whole to figure out how to navigate today.
True. What do you think the Bank of Canada should have done? Do you think they should have done it this fast to combat inflation? What should have happened?
No, I believe rates at some point were due to go up, but I think if you added 1% a year, you gave everybody an opportunity to kind of recalibrate and position themselves for new rate increases and make decisions, that weren't so harsh. So if rates were starting to nudge up, then maybe you would have just locked into a fixed position. But now locking into a fixed position when rates have gone up 4.25% doesn't seem overly flattering. So had they gone up 1%, you might have felt, well, I got some utility of value from rates being low for a few years, so I'm paying a little bit more today, but it really offset and my strategy made sense. Where today, I think a lot of people are really upset they didn't lock in when they could have locked in at sub 2% for 5-year money, because now those rates are probably gone for the foreseeable future and they may never come back. So we have to adjust to these new rates, which is really difficult when it happens so quickly.
So let me ask, because, the interest rates are just like a normal talking point in every aspect of, society now. Will interest rates ever go back down to the rates they were before even closed?
I don't think so. I think those days are gone. I think you might see a bit of a drop in rates from what people are suggesting late next year, but a 0.5% maybe. So you'll never see the lowest 5-year fixed money we've seen historically during my tenure, and that would be the lowest ever, was maybe 1.59%, which is dirt cheap. And admittedly, that's not a number you can anticipate seeing, but that's what we saw. And we were seeing most numbers hovering around 2% for fixed year positions. So those days, I think people have to get those off the radar, because I don't think those days are coming back. And they come off a little bit, sure, but they've come up 4.25%. So if they come down another 0.5%, you're still net 3.75 higher than what you were 6 months ago or 8 months ago.
So if let's just say if you have a variable mortgage right now, 5 years into the variable mortgage, do you win or do you lose, or are you kind of even?
Well, depending where you were with it, I don't think today's the time to lock into a fixed position. I think now rates have gone up materially, so I think you just have to ride it out. I was an advocate when we saw rates below 2%. I was telling all my clients lock in, right? Because I just felt that, it's not going to go down too much more, if at all, but the upside potential is pretty great. And we've seen rates historically, before my time in the early 80s, as high as 21%. That's what people were paying mortgages on, 21%. So imagine that. So when you see it at sub 2%, and if you've seen a 40-year graph and you see it as high as 21, hey, we can't pick tops or bottoms. We're pretty close to the bottom, so why not just lock in, have peace of mind? Because what I do know with banks is if you've got a 5-year variable mortgage, but it's locked in for 5 years, when rates go up, they're not going to give you the best rate because you're already locked in with the bank for another 3 or 4 years. So they're going to give their new customers probably a better rate than somebody who's existing because you're committed to that bank. So when rates going up, it's usually too late to lock in at a preferred rate, and that's the challenge.
True. Now, where do you see the real estate industry going in 2023?
Well, it'll be a challenging year. It'll be a different year. And this is the first time in a long time we've started seeing power of sales because, property prices have adjusted downward. We've seen anywhere from 10 to 25%, depending on location. So we've definitely seen a turn. And if people unfortunately bought earlier this year, then they're going to be offside right now, but they haven't actualized it. So we tell a lot of buyers today who were unfortunate when they bought during the bidding war frenzy in the first quarter, don't worry, the market will always come back. GTA is resilient, but as long as you haven't sold it, you haven't really accrued a loss, right? But I'll give you one perfect example. There's a property that traded in Brampton the first quarter of this year during the height of the market for $2,650,000. It just traded again a few months ago by way of power of sale for 1.850. So 800,000 less in like just within the span of 6 to 8 months. So it's now that's probably one of the more exaggerated, sales, but it just tells you that, people are in a bit of dire straits today. One of the folks we deal with that gives us sometimes power of sales, we spoke to their law firm. So they're responsible for a lot of people who, maybe give private money out and now they're behind or delinquent. Just on January 1st of this year, one law firm only, they're going to be issuing 25 power of sales. So it just gives you a magnitude of where things are going in terms of, the finances for a lot of people.
Now, how is the market in Mississauga right now? Like, our houses, obviously the prices have gone down, but I mean, are they, gone down, as low as what you just said about in Brampton?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So I think South Mississauga was a little more protected. So the more affluent neighborhoods might have come off 10%. I think North Mississauga, maybe 20%. So what we said, but remember, here's what I would say. If you bought over a year ago, you're just giving up some of your profits. If you bought maybe late last fall, early this year, then you're actually seeing some hard losses, right? If you materialize that sale. If you don't, the market will come back. We've seen this cycle, a couple of times where, we've seen a bit of a tough market, usually government induced, to be honest with you, because it's not the free market running on its own. It's government intervention that's caused this kind of havoc. But our market's very resilient. It does come back. It might take a little longer this time. I think 2023 will be a challenging year. It won't be as easy of a year for many. And I think for people who own houses today, know the market will come back. And don't be worried, but make sure you can find ways to make those payments. Because I think that's my biggest concern for the consumers at large is how do you navigate these payments today? And I don't think it's too easy given what's happening in the marketplace today. So I think that's our challenge. And I think buyers, it's a tough period. And I really feel for people. But here's another interesting, if you're buying a property today, and here's one of the things we should really dive into, let's say you need $1 million mortgage, which really in today's standards is not a big mortgage because, most properties are trading for well over $1 million. The qualifying income is between $250,000 to $300,000 on a $1 million mortgage. And the average Canadian household income is maybe $100,000 to $120,000. So there's a huge disparity. Prices have gone up, interest rates have gone up, incomes are level, interest rates have gone up and prices have gone up. So it's really a big disparity today trying to get into the market because there's a stress test to qualify. And for those who don't know, it's a plus 2%. And we understood it a little bit when rates were ultra low that, hey, they want to build in a mechanism so when rates do go up eventually, that a buyer can afford the mortgage payments when they come up for renewal at a higher rate. But now the rates have gone up 4.25%. They still have said they're not getting rid of the stress test. So you're qualifying on 8% today. So even if you're getting a mortgage of 5.5 or 6, you're qualifying on 8. So it makes it very difficult to get a mortgage today. So this is a big problem because most people who think, well, I want to get in the market, maybe the market's soft, and so it's a good time for me to get in, even though rates are higher, it's been offset by lower prices. So I should be able to jump in and eventually I can make sense of it. Well, sometimes you can't even qualify for mortgage.
True. Now, if I was going to ask, if you're talking to somebody with a variable mortgage right now that's stressing out, what advice would you give them?
Well, there's no easy answer because now they're kind of in that position. I've got a lot of friends who talk to me about this on a daily basis, and you just have to somehow weather the storm. Rates aren't going down, unfortunately, anytime soon. This is your new reality, and I wouldn't lock into a long-term position because I think rates won't really, they're talking maybe one more rate hike, but at that point, that's going to be probably it for a while because I don't think we can afford any more rate hikes. So I think you have to weather the storm, but it's easier said than done. A lot of my friends, unfortunately, having to get second jobs to try and support their house costs. And I think you just have to tighten your belt and get through this difficult period. But I don't think it's it's an overnight issue that gets resolved. I think it's a long-term plan that you have to realize this is our new reality today.
Cool. And it's a reality, I'm assuming, for 2-3 years?
Yeah, well, I think 2023 for sure. 2024, yeah. It's really hard to call after that because there's so many moving parts to really dictate what the future looks like. But I think you just have to realize that that sub 2% 5-year money is a thing of the past, and you have to realize that rates are back to more of the traditional rates. I just think it came at us too quick, too hard for people to be able to pivot and adjust to this new reality.
True. And I guess the most important question, Sam, how do the Raptors get fixed?
Well, listen, I think you have some injury issues today. So one of my good boys, OG's been out, and I think when he comes back, he plays such a big role, both offensively, defensively. I mean, right now, you're going to go through some difficult periods, but I mean, they're a good team. They're a good nucleus. They're coached really well. So they'll rebound, but they've got a couple tough games ahead of them. I mean, tonight's Philadelphia. Wednesday, I actually be with Nav, the Super Van in New York, to watch them play. And so we got to get back in a winning streak and at least win one game to get that momentum as well, too, right? So, and I just want to add one last thing, and I think the government should really think about this as well. As rates have gone up, and it's been a bit of a challenge for many people. Well, I thought for sure they might eliminate the stress test to alleviate the qualifying process. But I also really think they should strongly consider extending the amortization period so that people can at least make their payments at a comfortable level. Because if payments have gone up $2,000 per person on hold for every $1 million, if they stretch that amortization to 35 or 40, it brings it back to where you are today. So at least you can afford to live your life. And at some point, maybe when you readjust, you can bring down that amortization back to 25 years. But I think the government has to show some level of sensitivity to what people are feeling today. And I talked about this with our team a couple of weeks ago. And this is when I thought it was really important to talk about this point. There was a couple of people who came on. Doug Ford, I had a lot of respect for him. He said, listen, this is really wrong to raise these rates so much, so quick, so hard, so fast. It's affecting everybody across the board, especially, the people who are the mid-class and et cetera. It really does affect them. Another guy came on. He said he was a pretty prominent banker back in the day, retired now. And he basically said that this really doesn't matter. People still hold on to their houses. The first thing they let go is their credit cards. They let that go into a delinquent position, and then their cars, then their house. But who wants to be in a delinquent position anyway? Like, is it okay to have a delinquent credit card so your credit rating gets hurt? Is it okay to have your car payments not made on time? None of that's okay. So I don't think they're looking at it pragmatically. And we're in the trenches. We see what it's doing in, day out. And I really think the government's got to step up and try and make things right for people who are really going to suffer in 2023. It won't be a really great holiday for people as they think about their bills. And most of the younger generation are really feeling it. And I really empathize because my brothers are in that situation where they've got variable rate mortgages and they're asking for counsel. And, if you've got a family, you have kids and all the above, it's not easy today. And I think the government really has to step up and try and make things right. So if they want to increase interest rates, at least level the playing field, stretch the amortization.
Okay, good point. All right, Sam. Have fun at the Raptors game.
It's always a pleasure. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Okay, later, man.
Take care, Cal.